Welcome to the NWI.com Political Roundtable for Thursday, July 28th. I'm Robert Blaszkiewicz, Assistant Managing Editor of The Times. Here with me today, Doug Ross, Editorial Page Editor of The Times, and Times columnist Mark Kiesling, talking about the latest developments in politics. And today and all this week, the talk has been in Washington and everywhere in the country about the battle over raising the debt ceiling limit. Today, the House is voting on House Speaker Boehner's bill to do that with spending cuts. It seems to be kind of a futile effort because Harry Reid, the Senate Majority Leader, has already said he's going to that the bill is not going to pass the Senate. The White House doesn't seem inclined to sign it. So where do we go from here, and will we end up in default next week?
I don't think we'll hit default. I think if there's anybody that Congress will listen to, it's Wall Street. Mm-hmm. And Wall Street is already squawking very loudly about it.
Well, we were talking just a few minutes ago about how the average American doesn't want to see a default.
Right.
We have seen the raising of the debt ceiling since the Reagan years. I mean, it's just a fact of life anymore. And Wall Street governs what happens in Washington, because actually the voice of Wall Street is the voice of the average American. That's where they have their money. The average American has their money invested somehow in stocks, bonds, municipal
mortgages.
Mortgages.
I mean, even your credit card rates, if they're adjustable rates,
right,
they're going up even as we speak.
And they're not going to take it. They are not going to take a default. I mean, they're not. If there's a default, there will be a revolt.
Well, if there is a default and there will be a revolt, who will get the blame?
Everybody.
Incumbents. Absolutely.
Everybody from Harry Reid to John Boehner, they will get the blame, because they're going to say, you people, we put you people in here to do this, and you can't get it done. We're sick of you as a Republican. We're sick of you as a Democrat using your parties and using your partisan politics to stall and maneuver and just get it done.
Now, you mentioned what the majority of the average American wants, what the majority of Americans want. And it seems that you see polls that the majority of Americans want to see compromise. They want some combination of spending cuts along with revenues, whether it's raising taxes on the very wealthy or closing loopholes that corporations use. But the Republicans seem to be refusing any even discussion of closing tax loopholes or raising taxes on the wealthy.
You know what? A lot of those Republicans had to sign Grover Norquist's pledge to not raise taxes. And now if they go back on it, they're hung by their constituents who put them in office.
It's funny. I thought their pledge was to the Constitution, not to Grover Norquist.
Well, we'll see.
I will say, you hate to be hung by the constituents. That hurts. Yeah.
And so, what happens now is, sooner or later somebody's going to blink, and it's going to happen before August 2nd, or we're in big trouble.
What's going to happen is they're both going to have to blink. They're both going to have to give up their pride a little bit and say, okay, this is best for the American people, and we're just going to have to do it. And if you don't like it, well, then vote us out next term. But this is what is best for you.
And a lot of that might happen next term, because if the election were held this year instead of next year for them, I think you would see a whole lot of incumbents tossed out on their ears.
Yeah.
Well, it's a possibility, but remember, we live in a democratic republic. We don't live in a democracy. We live in a republic where we elect people to make decisions for us. And if we don't like them, well, our option is out the door.
Well, shifting locally, and speaking of taxes and spending, We have a very interesting situation with Maryville last night. The town council seeing its dire financial straits, basically saying, hey, you know what, we need a county income tax. We can't be the last county in Indiana to not have a county income tax. Our infrastructure needs work. Our police need personnel. So Doug,
councilmen need insurance.
Yeah. So Doug, what is this something that's going to take hold maybe with additional municipalities?
Well, I think you could probably see some municipalities. Gary has traditionally been supportive of an income tax. For Maryville to come on board, Maryville has dire finances, ironically, even though it's not dire. And so...
Thank you. I was going to say that, but...
Well, I'd take the joke out of your mouth. Sorry about that. Maryville really needs help of one sort or another. For it to say this in an election year for municipal officials is pretty interesting. That might be something to regret. I don't know that they'll get the support this year from other municipalities because of that election. But it's a tough one to face. People don't want new taxes, period.
No, they don't want new taxes, and there's a good reason they don't want new taxes. It's because they don't believe that the municipalities in Lake County spend their taxes wisely. Of course Gary's in favor of this. I mean, but we look at Gary, and has Gary historically spent its tax money wisely? No, it hasn't. We know that. You build it, and let's just go to a $25 million baseball stadium that cost $45 million. The same baseball stadium. I've been to the Real Cats games. I like them. They're good. They're fun. Great family time. But I've also been to the stadium in Joliet. It was called Silver Cross Stadium. I think it's called something else now. But and it is almost exactly the same configuration as Gary. It cost $25 million. Now, why could Joliet build that stadium for $25 million? And Joliet has not historically been the cleanest of cities, but they managed to do it. People don't trust Lake County politicians with their money,
and yet they keep reelecting them.
They keep. Here's why Lake County politicians keep being reelected, because we have about 19% of the people of the registered voters who turn out to vote. Now, those 19%, 19 to 23% turn out regularly to vote in a non-presidential election year. Who are those people? Those people are the people who work on the public payroll, or have relatives who work in the public payroll, or friends who work in the public payroll, or they are people that the precinct committeemen go out and pick up on a rainy day and bring in to vote. They're not your average voter. Your average voter stays home. I mean, I hate to say it, and it's Lake County's own fault, but your average voter is apathetic. They stay home. I mean, when you get 19 to 23% turnout in a non-presidential year, you're apathetic. You get what you vote for, and when you're voting in a non-presidential year, the majority of your votes come from people who have a vested interest in the system. That's why you keep getting the same people reelected. It's not because we're idiots, it's because we're apathetic.
Well, speaking of distrust of Lake County politicians, we have George Van Til, the Lake County surveyor, trying to sell his plan to have funding, a funding mechanism to maintain the new levees for the Little Calumet River. He's gone into Porter County to try to sell them on this plan. He's not meeting much success, is he, Doug?
Right. I mean, the Portage City Council has already said no to it. Now the Porter County Council has said no to it. Well, you know, look at why they would. Here's a conservancy district that a sliver of Portage Township would be forced into because it's in the watershed. But it would be
Union
set.
Township would,
Well,
parts of Union Township
exactly.
would also be in that watershed.
Exactly. But it would be set up by a Lake County judge.
Right.
And
Now,
so,
of course, Gary's voted for it, and
well, why wouldn't they? I
well,
mean,
yeah, but Gary may be the tail that wags the dog in this case. I mean, let's face it, Gary's got a much bigger say in this. If you can get Gary and Hammond to vote for it, it doesn't really matter who votes against it, because
Gary's something like 16% of the parcels in the watershed.
they're going to be, no, they are going to be the like I said, the tail that wags the dog.
You know, so how this plays out, we'll have to wait and see. You know, I'm hoping that every community that's in it will get a chance to have their say.
But it's not surprising that the people in Porter County have said, we don't want any part of this.
No.
You know, we've seen the battles over the RDA, and
Now,
Exactly.
is that surprising, Robert? Because anything that Lake County and Porter County try to do together, it seems that if Lake County's for it, Porter County's against it. The RDA is a good example.
Sure. I think there's some skepticism of Lake County control of things.
You've
seen it. You see it over and over. You see it in the overtures by the Lake County Tourism
Exactly.
Board to try to combine forces, and Porter County doesn't want any part of that either. So there's definitely a distrust there.
Well, I mean,
and you know, feeling a loss of local control as well.
well, I mean,
Right.
let's face it. In 1940, America had a very isolationist view of world politics, and but by 1940, the rest of a lot of the world was engaged in war. Germany invaded Poland in 1939. Britain and France had declared war on Germany 3 days later, and America was pretty much sick of war because they'd gone to war in World War I, and people and you had very respected people like Charles Lindbergh leading the charge, saying, "We want to be isolationist." Is Porter County being isolationist?
I think to some extent. I think, but I think there's also the question of creating another layer of government that I think a lot of people in Porter County are skeptical of, especially when you have an existing commission that could do this job of maintaining the lake.
Except that
Right.
commission is going to that commission, and I think you're talking about the Little Calumet River Basin
Right.
Development Commission.
Right.
That commission it's solely charged with building the.
No, well, actually, no, it's in charge of maintenance too, by
Well,
state statute.
The question is funding.
Exactly,
So-
and funding is the issue.
And
the money's
it
just
has
not
no
there.
funding.
Right.
So, you know, basically what it's gonna have to come down to is, if you don't want these properties to flood, you're gonna have to come up with the money locally.
You
And-
can be given the statutory authority to do the maintenance, but if you're not given any money,
Right.
then what power do you really have? Now, this opens up the door to say, look, and here's Van Til's argument, and I'm not going to try to be a guy who carries the water for Van Til, but here's his argument, is that, and this is Mayor Tom McDermott from Hammond, his argument as well, is that right now there's no local control of the board. It's all appointed by the governor. Their idea is to have a locally elected board with people on it who have engineering knowledge, not just people who, like me. I mean, for example, I couldn't be on the board. I can't engineer my way out of a paper bag. But people who
There'll be a test on that later.
and I will fail. But their idea is to get qualified local people elected from 9 different districts, each one of which would represent part of that watershed, to have a say in what goes on there. And to me, their argument makes a lot of sense. It's like, all right, thank you for building it. Now we'll take local control over it, and we'll have it divided among people from the various areas that are affected. Now, if you're down on Lowell, where your watershed is the Kankakee River, you're not going to be involved. You don't even have to worry about it. You're not going to pay for it. You're not going to do anything. This isn't going to affect you. You're in Cedar Lake. You don't care. But it's from basically St. John North that feeds into the Little Calumet River. And not only do I think they should have a say in it, they should have a representative on that board, and which is what they do not now have on the Little Calumet River Basin District Conservancy, or the Development District.
Well, there's local say, but it's not locally elected. So,
well, we'll have to see how all this plays out, along with the debt limit battle, and we'll obviously be updating you on that and everything else next week. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.